in the midst of your answer, you said we can't separate it, and why would we want to? And I tend to agree with you. I find that very intuitive, that there is something so beautiful about this connection that we have, and why would we want to ignore that and ignore the gratitude for that? I have to think, because of where we are now amid of all the climate chaos and everything, insert any number of words here, that there are people who would rather just not think about it for a multitude of reasons, but some of them might be, that's really great in principle. I love thinking about these things. But then the podcast is going to end. What is the thing that would take the wisdom from this past that point of, wow, that was a cool conversation, next, into, okay, how do we integrate this into our lives? What is that piece that you would call listeners into to really bring this into conversation? I hope that question makes sense. But someone who may not be as intuitively receptive to these notions, how might they begin to integrate it into their lives?
Such a great question. Such a great question. Yeah.
It is the question, isn't it? We can talk and talk and talk. And, there's that great song from My Fair Lady, if you love me, show me. I can't remember how it goes, but it's all about talk. And I think that the first step always in the work that I'm trying to do anyway, is to ask people to see. Just to see and to notice, and to be intentional about attention. And I think that it's the first step toward what one might call active love. I think it was John Seed who said, we're not going to say what we don't love. But I'd go a step further and say, we're not going to love what we don't see. There's an awful lot now that's being recommended in regard to mindfulness. And we can't go to a bookstore. I think there's a mindfulness section now, right? And so we can extend our mindfulness to the non-human. And by attending, encouraging us to see not only with our eyes, but also with all of our senses, just to take it in. I tell a story in the book about a woman who, we asked this question, what is it like to be you? She was a master gardener, and she got down on her hands and knees and spent some time with an ant. And she had gone through the certification to be this master gardener. And she came out and said, I'm not the master. I'm not the master of the ant. That I am one. I am a fellow creature. And so just taking the time to spend 5 minutes with a tree or an ant, to begin to see, to begin to notice, and then you notice again, right? And then that leads to another noticing. And as we notice, the end of that exercise, what is it like to be you, is, am I doing anything to harm you? Am I doing anything to harm you? And as we look around, to our wooden framed houses and our wooden bookcases and paper and all the ways that we use trees, can we begin to look at our trees and say, are we harming you, and how are we harming you? And then how can we, as we notice, we fall in love. It's like any new relationship. We start to hear the story of that person and that organism. As we fall in love, we hopefully will start acting out of love. But first, we need to notice.
I love that. It really is a beautiful opening of a new love story. I was talking just the other day, probably to myself in my apartment, about how any relationship is a love story, platonic, romantic, familial. We have all of these great love stories, and how can we really begin to appreciate the romantic nature of all of these relationships? But we really need to appreciate it with these relationships as well, to the earth, to these trees, to the things that take care of us. And I suppose I'll throw out there as well, if this is a new love story for a listener, that's beautiful. But also if it's an old love story for a listener and you're being reminded of your young first tree love, to call back in that feeling, right? And what that evokes in you, and to maybe return to some of that joy.
I think you put your finger on something really important there, Reese. Just recently, I asked a group of 30 retreatants to begin by just taking 10 minutes, and I sort of did a guided reflection with them, asking them to think about an experience with a tree that was meaningful to them. And you know what? Everybody had one. Everybody had one. And then we gave them the opportunity in small groups to share that. And they came back loving each other. It's like it was so beautiful. And it was there. It was there. And I am not saying that may be true for everyone, but I will say it's true for many, many people, that we know trees have attributes that are healing for us, that are enlivening for us. There's all sorts of research about how people heal faster when they see trees out their window. There's research about when you smell the aerosols of trees, you are healed. You walk in a forest, your blood pressure's lowered. We may start out with the relationship about what can you do for me? If we are attentive, back to what Beth is saying, if we're paying attention, then I think we also will name at some point gratitude. And that's another avenue into that relationship, is to be open enough to realize that we are being given abundant gifts. And of course, gratitude itself is a spiritual practice, as we know, and it has all sorts of healing properties. Alone, if you're grateful for anything, you are in fact feeling better about yourself. It's in us. It is in us to want to be connected to the living world. Our ancestors' had to be connected to this world and understand it and learn from it, or we would not be here. They had to know where the danger was, where the opportunities were, where the food was, what was going to come after them, if they didn't know how to walk quietly in the forest. So that didn't just go away because we have suddenly walled ourselves inside a house. There's a loneliness we feel when we are not connected to the living world. And when we are, we see all sorts of possibilities open, and we crack open to that gratitude and that connection and that love. And then that becomes self-affirming, I think. So, but remembering may be a place to start. Remembering a time when.
I really love that. As soon as you said that, it was, of course, this one memory sprung to mind so clearly. And it really struck me with just the power of that and how consistent trees are within our stories and our narratives.